Thank you for tuning in. This is Kingdom Wisdom with me, your host, Phoebes. Before I start, I'd like to invite you to follow, like, share, rate, and leave a comment in the comment section. Also, feel free to send us a DM on Instagram at KingdomWisdom.Podcast. As we continue to build on purpose, I'd like us to focus on the power of a dream. And today I have a special guest that will help us do that. My younger brother, Spongi, aka the future Dr. Moletsane. Make some noise.
Hello, everyone, and I am glad to be here.
I am glad to have you here. I know we've been speaking about this for a long while. You had to be my first interview.
Love that, and it's such an honor, honestly, just to be here.
Let's jump into it. So, today I want us to discuss what was your dream and the journey that helped you go through it and get there.
My dream was always to get into med school. It was always to become a doctor, and so from the youngest age, I always just wanted to become the next Chris Barnard. Just a big name surgeon. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. So, how was the journey?
The journey wasn't easy by no means. It was a struggle. Even for the fact that I am studying right now, it still shocks me, to wake up in the morning thinking, hey, I'm doing an MBCHB, I'm on this journey to becoming a doctor. It's phenomenal. Considering where I come from and the struggles I've had to battle to be here, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Lovely. I just want you to go through with us through the struggles that you've been through to becoming a doctor. I know that we've spoken a couple of times about this journey, and that's why it is so important for me to encourage young people to pursue the dream at all costs because there's so much power in a dream, and our journey builds character and it helps us to become better people and to bring hope and light to others. So please, please elaborate more on this lovely journey of yours. I know you also got a scholarship, business.
Yeah, so my dream started around about grade 5, 6. That's when I realized I wanted to go into this medical field. Mainly because at the time it was Grey's Anatomy inspired. For those who haven't watched Grey's Anatomy, they're not sponsoring us or anything, but like I'm plugging them in right now. So Grey's Anatomy, Dr. Yang, she inspired me. But the dream was very clear at that point that I always wanted to become a doctor and go into surgery. But around about 2018, 2019, that's where our family sort of hit very big financial struggles. And that dream that I once had sort of started slipping away. And so it became the reality of how so many African people in countries all over Africa, especially, and around the world, where people now, their dreams or what they wanted to do slips away because of financial struggles. It started to become a reality. Because in my mind, I was thinking of, hey, this thing might not happen because, I mean, in a few years, I have to start thinking of going to varsity. And how am I going to do that if we're starting financial struggles now? So that was a very big problem. Things were very tight financially at home. And I remember in about grade 8, 9, I'm thinking, "Ugh, this is not going to work. Maybe I have to start thinking about something else." Luckily, as you've already mentioned, this big company decided, okay, cool. No, you have been performing very well academically. You've been doing great things in school. We're going to fund you. And they started funding everything from my school fees to my textbooks to whatever I needed. Pretty much, they funded everything.
Look at God.
Yeah, no, God really pulled through. God really pulled through. And it's very funny because just before that, I remember I was even struggling in my faith, and I was just like, yo, God, if you don't do anything, if you don't change things by the end of the year, I don't see us having a relationship.
Threatening God.
Yeah, no, legit. At that moment, it was, yeah, I kind of threatened him, but I don't encourage it for anyone though, because at that time, I want to say my faith was not strong. So when I threatened God in that moment, I did not realize the magnitude of the situation and how deadly it was. It's like a little kid going up to their dad, slapping them in their face and expecting the dad not to do anything about it. So yeah, long story short, God pulled through and the scholarship came by. Things started really looking up again for our family, not only because of the scholarship, but because my father's business started picking up as well and things started looking good. But around grade 12, I remember this big company, they came and they said, why haven't we seen any sort of application into finance or into engineering or into IT, something that our mind can use, because they were a mining company. And I said to them, no, I'm going into medicine.
Faith talk for real.
That is faith talk, because I was legit risking losing the entire scholarship just based on the fact that I have this one dream, And so I followed that dream. And I remember about late last year, they gave me a call again and they said, hey, we've been speaking with the big boys up top, and we decided, hey, we're gonna start funding students that are not doing anything related to the mine. So yeah.
If this ain't giving Joseph, I don't know what it is.
Legit. Because in the moment, I remember, not only was it very great, I felt very honored, because now they're going to fund for me. Yeah. So that financial burden is cut. But now from this year on, they're legit gonna fund other children. They're gonna fund other people that want to do aviation and, acting, drama, you name it, even if it doesn't have anything to do with that big mining company. And I was so honored to be trailblazer. Yeah. So and these little things just keep adding on, and they just keep showing me how like God has just been great, and how God has just been like showing up and showing out. He doesn't just show up, he shows out.
Yes.
He brags about his children, and that has just been a great thing. And so now that I had the financial backing and everything, it was just about getting into med school. But the matric results came out, I had all these distinctions, but now slowly but surely universities are saying, hey, you have great results.
No, hold on.
Yeah.
Tell them how many distinctions you had.
Oh, okay. I got 6 distinctions. English refused. But I mean, 6 was still a very, I'm very happy.
English is not your tongue mother.
No, English is not my tongue mother. So English definitely refused, but all my marks were very good. And so in that moment, I thought, okay, cool. This medical school dream it's gonna happen. But slowly but surely, universities started saying, your marks are great, but there's no space. Your marks are great, but there's no space. And on the side, I had sort of applied for other things like BSc, physiotherapy, medical science, and all these universities. And they were accepting me for all these things, but not for what my dream was. And so all these things were giving me a week to respond and everything. And I just let them expire. I let everything expire. So it got to the point where now I'm letting everything expire, and there's not even a guarantee that I'm going to get into medicine. Right?
The only guarantee you needed to have was Jesus has my back.
He was legit my only guarantee in the moment, because after letting all of these things expire, it was a thing of, if this medical thing doesn't work out, I'm taking a gap year this year, because everything else is expiring. It was a forceful gap year, and just God just showed up. I got 2 of the universities I applied to gave me a call, and they were like, hey, I felt so honored in that moment to be able to get this dream that so many people look for and so many people want to achieve, and so many people don't even get the chance to achieve because there's so few medical schools in the country specifically. And it was just, I felt very honored. And yeah, that's sort of the journey of the struggle to where I'm at now.
So on that topic, I know that you are a young boy of faith.
Yeah.
Obviously, we met at youth, and you've always explained like how God has been so faithful and so gracious to you. I want you to leave us with like 2 of your favorite verses and how they played a role through getting through this hard period of your.
Okay. My parents played a very integral role in like getting us through this, right? Because as much as they were going through this financial struggle and everything, they really did their best to sort of shout us from that and to make sure that we don't lose our faith. And there's this one phrase that I hate, and my mother loves it. And she would always say, "Go siyama," which basically translates to, it's going to be well. It's going to be well. In the darkest tribulations, through all the losing everything, seeing all the debts and everything, it was just, "Go siyama. It's going to be well. It's going to be well." To the point where I almost got angry at her now, being like, no, it's not. Okay, relax, lady. It's not going to be well. It's not going to be well. But like, she just kept going and she kept going. And I think her faith is what, her faith and my father's faith is what just kept us going. But the 2 scriptures that stuck out to me the most through this period was Matthew 6:33, and concurrently with that, Jeremiah 29:11. Mainly because they can link with one another. And Matthew 6:33, It says, seek first the kingdom, right? It says, seek first the kingdom of God and all its righteousness. And all of these other things,
All
these other things,
All
your
these other
dreams,
things.
med school, finances, all of these other things shall be added unto you. And so I decided, okay, cool, seek first the kingdom. Seek first the kingdom. And linked to that is Jeremiah 29:11, that says, I have plans to prosper you. I don't have plans to harm you, but plans to give you a hope and a future for you to prosper, a future. So now it just validated the fact that my dreams are possible. My dreams are achievable. It doesn't look like everything is good right now, but achieving that dream is definitely a possibility. It's definitely something that we can achieve. And when you seek first the kingdom, nothing else that you do will not be added, or nothing else that you desire or require, because some of the things that we necessarily require are not the things that we desire. Oh, that was fire. That was fire. Because there's a lot of things that we think we need, but there's a lot that we require that we don't think we need. And those things are the things that God will provide. And he only provides them when you seek him, when you seek the kingdom, when you seek him. So legit, those two verses, they stuck out to me. And I think you even remember there's this principle that I live by, GTA, not Grand Theft Auto, but like it's God first. So seek first the kingdom, put God first. Trust in him. That's what the T stands for. So it's G, God, T, trust. Trust in him. Put your faith in him. Rely wholeheartedly on him. And all of these other things shall come to pass. And then the last thing is action, right? Because God can provide all these things for you. God can tell you all of the things to do. God can give you all that you need. But if you don't do what you can do, nothing will happen. Because God will only step into the situation when it's time to do something that you can't do. But as long as you can do it, he won't do it for you. So God will do what he knows you can't do, but he will rely on you to do what he knows that you can do. So God, trust, action. If you forget everything I said today, just rely on God, trust in him, and follow his word and his instructions for your life. And everything, no matter the circumstance, will go according to his plan for your life.
That's beautiful. Every prophetic word that is spoken over our lives requires a form of action. Everything has what do they call it now? Everything has a guideline. So this is what needs to happen, but there's instructions. There's a manual that we need to follow. You can't just get there. Like Jesus is not Father Christmas.
No, he's not. And like Joseph, like episode about Joseph. Joseph was a man of dreams. And the main one that he had before he became the prime minister, about the 7 cows, the thin ones being eaten by the fat ones, and the fat grains being eaten by the thin grains, and all of that. That was a dream. That was God speaking to Joseph through Pharaoh's dream, right? But now Joseph had to rely on action, right? Joseph had to carry through the actions, because yes, he knew what was going to happen. He knew that they were going to have 7 years of plenty and they were going to have 7 years of drought. But if Joseph didn't carry out that action of preserving what they had, or preserving the extra during the 7 years of plenty, during the 7 years of drought, God wouldn't have done anything about it, because he had intentionally prepared Joseph. He had intentionally prepared the Egyptians. He had intentionally prepared them to be able to say, hey, in these 7 years, this is the work that we're going to do. This is the work that we're going to take. These are the actions that we're going to follow through with. And because Joseph did those actions, in the 7 years of drought, they were able to achieve plenty. They were able to have food. People from neighboring countries, neighboring cities, neighboring towns, they were able to come and find nourishment. But if Joseph did not put God first, if he did not trust in his instinct of interpreting the dream properly, and if he did not carry out the action of preserving what they had extra, they would have never saved. They would have never flourished through the 7 years of drought. Many people could have even died.
On that note, I also want you to explain how these verses and how this story helped you through those periods of your life. I think it's very important for us to understand that, because many young people, like, they lose faith in God when it doesn't happen in according to my time. Because my time says it should be happening right now. Why isn't it happening now? Lord, if not now, deuces. But how did that help you so that we can help other people? I mean, this is Kingdom Wisdom.
I think one of the biggest keys or one of the biggest things that we need to understand is that God is a God that stands outside of time. He's
Boss.
no, he really is a God that stands outside of time. And when we stand in time, right? We stand in time. He stands outside of time. So you know how you're watching TV and you have control over whether to rewind, to fast forward, to pause, to play. God legit has control over time like that. And his timing, he knows when something is supposed to happen, right? So for example, think of it as an Avengers movie, right? In Black Panther, if T'Challa's father, right, took back took Killmonger back to Wakanda as a kid, none of what had happened afterwards would have ever happened, right? But now that would take away from the whole story, the whole character building, the whole development, right? Because we look at situations as situations. God looks at situations as development. So when we have different things that we're looking to go through, we need to, as people, be able to understand that in our timing, it's not right, but in his timing, it's perfect. Scripture that says we will pass by two things, right? The blood of the lamb and the words of our testimonies.
My favorite scripture,
Right?
yeah.
So the blood of the lamb, that's God. He did that. That's Jesus. We can, that has nothing to do with us essentially, right? But the words of our testimonies are what help us carry ourselves through or help us carry others through, right? Because if you're in a situation of struggle, don't go around looking at others that are struggling around you, right? Because if you go out and look at others that are struggling around you, it will not, number one, it will not build your faith. If anything, it will tear down your faith. That is why you get people that are in poverty, that stay in poverty because they looked at the people that were next to them in poverty. But then you get people that are in poverty that look at people that prospered from poverty and they end up prospering in poverty because they were inspired by those that prospered in poverty. So stories like the story of Joseph are stories that were very highly inspirational because I looked at it. If somebody who had it all going for him, because the one thing I realized is that we always talk about people that go from rags to riches, but we don't talk about people that go from riches to rags.
Ooh.
So
And you went from rags, you went from riches to rags, and then you went from rags to riches.
You know what I'm saying? So we always talk about how people go from not having to having, and we never talk about them going from having to not having. And with Joseph had everything. There was nothing that he lacked. There was nothing that he could have probably needed. And he went from having everything in the world to having nothing, to losing his family, to losing his home, to becoming a slave. He lost it all, right? And the same happened in sort of our situation at home. Everything was good financially. Everything. We even moved to a new home in a better community. We had everything going for us, right? But over time, both my parents lost their jobs, everything. So we went from having something to having nothing, and that in its own was demoralizing. That in its own was like, oh, did we move too fast? Did we do this too quick? Did we do this? And stories like the stories of Joseph are what kept us going. Because when you see how Joseph was so faithful, how Joseph kept on going, how Joseph never lost his love for God. That's what kept him going. And I think the biggest thing is to never lose your love for God. No matter what situation you're going through, no matter what circumstance you're going through, because it might not look like things are good, but keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. So whenever you feel down, whenever you feel like you can't get through this, look for people around you. Look for people that are around you that can be inspirational, that can be a stepping stone. Ask people, go on YouTube, check, okay, cool. People that went from rags to riches. Watch. Now, that's not necessarily saying do what they did, because what works for somebody else will not necessarily work for you.
Facts. Thank you for clarifying that.
What works for somebody else will not work for you. And that's the key factor that people have to understand. The key thing that people have to learn to understand is that just because that when we were in poverty, I started selling pin pops and now I'm rich, doesn't mean that now if you go and sell pin pops, everything's going to work out, right? But use that as inspiration. Because when you use that as inspiration, you build your faith. Remember, you need hope to have faith. You need hope to have faith. And you need to have a vision. If you know where you want to go in life, if you have an idea of where you want to go in life, then everything will work out for you. Because there's a scripture that says that the people perish because of lack of faith, because of vision. They don't have vision. Where there is no vision, the people perish.
And
right?
because of lack of knowledge.
And because of lack of knowledge. So if you are here and you're saying, I'm taking it one day at a time, I don't know where I'm going, I'll see you tomorrow. I don't know what character that is, but love it. But I mean, if you say, no, I'll just see, you will never head somewhere. You will perish. This is how you end up falling down. This is how you end up in situations that you will forever regret. So my biggest thing is God stands outside of time. Don't rush him. Don't lose hope in him. And because now someone might be listening and saying, yeah, but you gave God a year. The funny thing is, I might have given him a year, but what if it was already in his plans to make things change within 6 months?
True.
So now it looks like I gave him a year when in reality he was going to do something in 6 months. Don't tempt God like that. Don't threat, because the reality is you might say, God, I'm only giving you 2 days. If things don't change in 2 days, you and I are done. What happens if his plan is to change it in 4 days? What happens? Because there's a picture that my dad once showed me where a person was mining underground. And I don't know if you know, where they kept going and going and going.
Yeah,
and then they give up just before they reach the minerals, like just before they reach the diamonds. That's the reality of how a lot of it happens.
And the other guy reached the diamonds.
And the other guy reached
but it was smaller diamonds.
You know what I'm saying? So don't give up because you think there's no way out. If you're still breathing, if you're still alive, there's always a way out. God wouldn't keep you alive if your life was purposeless. So just keep going, keep believing, have faith, have vision, put God first. Because when you put God first, your vision will be aligned with his purpose for your life. And if you trust him, you will learn to have faith in him. And if you have faith in him, you can follow through with what he says. And that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Please tune in for the next episode as we continue to dive deeper into Kingdom Wisdom. Don't forget to like, share, follow, rate, and leave a comment in the comment section.